Hello, in today's session we will see about components of a polygonal primitive. When we create primitive, for example, if I create a sphere from NURBS and a sphere from polygon, visually we don't see much difference. We don't see any difference by looking at them. They look similar spheres except the size, no problem. But they are built upon different kind of components. When I right click the NURBS primitive, I'll see isopalm, control vertex, surface point, etc. When I click the polygonal sphere, right click, edge, vertex, face and other options. So their base is entirely different. The later classes we will see about components of NURBS and curves. Today we will see about polygonal components. So in a polygon, there are three components. They are vertex, edge and face. Other four we will see later. Object is nothing but your whole object. So when I click vertex, I see some dots. When I drag across the sphere, these dots are selected. So these are called the vertex. So when I right click and press edge, you can see the lines. When I drag across the sphere, you can see the lines getting selected. If you want to select individual components, just have to select them manually or hold shift and select. If you want to deselect your selection, press Ctrl and deselect your selection. So here we have vertex. Vertex is like a dot where your lines intersect. Edge is a line. For an edge you need minimum vertices, minimum 2 vertices. And then we have face. Face will have in a polygonal component 4 edges and 4 vertices. If it is above this count, it is called an n-gon. If it is below this count, it is called a triangle. Below triangle, we won't be able to create any objects. So when we are working with polygonal modeling, we will stick to having 4 edges in a face. We'll try to stick to it. Here we can see there are triangles. You can see 1, 2, 3 vertex and 3 edges creating a single triangle. This is a polygonal face. This is a triangle because here 1, 2, 3 edges, but for this face we have 1, 2, 3, 4 edges. So about this edge count, about this polygon, triangle, n-gon, in the coming classes we will see in detail. When we are getting into UV, you will be clear why we are sticking to polygon. Right. Here how do we select them? We can select and manipulate them in the same way how we selected the objects. But for selecting the components, there are many methods. There are more options than selecting or manipulating an object. So when we are selecting, now we select using right clicking on an object and selecting the desired component. Otherwise I can press F8. After pressing F8, I can select any component. So now because of our early click on vertex, now it is still selecting vertex. So how do I select it in another way? If you find an extension over here, no problem. Otherwise it will be hidden over here. Just click this arrow. You can see one extension coming here. You can find the vertex, edge, faces selection, and those components for other primitives are also available over here. So this is one more method. Then we have modeling toolkit. Under the modeling toolkit, we have the components, and there will be some options. So this modeling toolkit we will see in a later class. So today we will go with the easy methods. So we'll start with selecting selecting components. You can manipulate them the same way you did with your objects. So the extra options we see here is, for example, if I open the tool setting, we saw about this world and object in the previous session. So others we will see later. We also saw about editing pivot, how to edit a pivot. Here I will select vertex. We can have symmetry while selecting components. I will bring to the center. How do I select using symmetry? You have to select any of your tool. At the bottom there will be symmetry settings. Symmetry is off right now. You can click object S, X or world X. For example, now we are in world position. If your object is here, if you take world, it will take this as the center. If you take object, it will take this as the center. So if you are in 0, 0 position, we don't have to worry. Now I will go with the symmetry setting. So symmetry, in which axis we wanna have symmetry. For example, I will go with object X and go with vertex. So when I select vertex, you can see this side and this side getting selected. If I want Y, I can have Y. You can see up and down vertices are getting selected, taking this line as the midpoint. If I go to world, the same result will happen. If I move it a bit further, I will go with world. Now you can see it is not taking because it is thinking this as the center point and this is not functioning. So for this we have to go with object X. Now you can see the symmetry selection is working. So if you are, when we are working in objects which are symmetrical and you want to manipulate in symmetrical way, you can select symmetry and do your manipulation. Right, the tolerance values will be here, like your selection tools in Photoshop. You have tolerance or weight, preserve seam, so it is mainly for our UVs, seam tolerance and seam fall off. These things we will see when we are working further. This is to select symmetrically our components. So then we have one more option, like if you want to select gradually. For example, I'll create a plane. Right, using this plane, how do I add or increase or decrease the component amount? You can go to polyplane. Here you have something called height and width. So when you increase or decrease the height and width, you can see the edges are getting created. If more edges means more vertex and more faces. So for example, here I have a plane with many vertex and many edges. So how do I know how many edges and vertex are present in my scene or in my object? So I'll just click this grid so I can see it clearly. You go to display, heads up display. Under heads up display you will find something called polygon. When you click it, at the top left you can see your polygon. So when I decrease this to 1, you can see there are 4 vertex, 4 edges and 1 face. Tries count it is giving, UV count it is giving. This we don't have to worry about the last two rows. The top three are vertex, edges and faces. So now we can see whatever the amount of components we have in our scene, we can see at the top left corner of our viewport. If you don't want this, again go to display, heads up display, just uncheck it, you won't see that. So for now I want to see it. I'll go with poly count. I'll select the plane. I will increase the subdivision. So now you can see according to the amount of vertex, here the digits are changing. So the left side is nothing but the total number of vertex in the scene. The second column is for the selected object. So if I select this, you can see the component count is changing. When I select this, it is changing. This is going to be the total. If I come here and delete this, you can see there is a change in the total number of components, right? So here I'll come. I want to select the vertex. I am selecting, and now you see why it is getting selected, because we kept this symmetry on. So always make sure when your job is done, off your symmetry or do a reset. So now the symmetrical selection is not happening. Now I'm going to select a set of vertex. I can select by dragging, or otherwise I can come here. I will go with selecting using Lasso Tool. This also works symmetrically. We will go with this paint selection. If we have time in this session, we will go. Otherwise, in next session, we will see about this paint selection tool. I am selecting a set of vertices and I am trying to move them up. So here it looks like a baked bread or a cake which is coming up. It is nowhere near to a mountain. So I want to drag them gradually. So I want to drag them, but the intensity of the push or pull should be gradual from the point of impact to till the area where I want. Okay, I will show this practically. So now I want a mountain over here, right? I want a mountain over here. Or otherwise I'll select something like this circular pattern. Now I want a mountain here. So when I drag it now, it is coming almost in right angle from the next available edges. So I'll go to the move tool. I'll go down to soft selection. I'll select soft selection. Now you can see visually there is a change in colors. Earlier it was only yellow. Now yellow is there. Additionally, we can see more color. These colors are nothing but here we are the impact of translation is going to be more. Farther it is going to be less. In these areas there isn't going to be any impact. So how do we see? We are seeing it visually using these colors. If you want to fall off radius, if you want to increase, you can increase or decrease. If you want a smaller mountain, okay, we can go with this. Fall off mode, volume, you can go with surface or global or the object. We are not going with this. I will go with the surface. So it will be a bit better than the volume. I'll go with the surface. This decides how much of area I have to affect. I will select 3. Then fall off curve. There are many curves. So today we are not going to see about this curve. When it is necessary, we will see. Fall off color. Now it defines 100% impact is on yellow. On black it is going to be around 0. So now I want to change the color. It is easy. I'll come here. I'll select this yellow color dot. I'll go to the color and I will make it something like red. right. Sorry, I'll make it something like red. Done. We'll go to the center. I'll make it something like yellow. It'll be more easy. And last, I'll make something like blue. Done. Now we know the impact amount. When I translate right now you can see the translation is gradual and which looks similar to a mountain. If I deselect this soft selection, you can see the difference happening when I am translating. So this is soft selection. You can use wherever you want. Fall off radius is 3. We can increase or decrease the radius. I'll select a different set. I'll just increase it. And then in the middle I can decrease to get some different result. Again I will decrease to get some different results. So using smooth selection, I am manipulating our components. The edge, it will work. For the faces, it will work. So for components, we have more options to manipulate. So here we have something called Vertex Face. This Vertex Face, you can see it is showing the faces in a different way. This is mainly used for painting vertex weight or seeing some accidental extrusion. This we will see when we are editing our components. Then we will see multi. I will off this soft selection. So always make sure you are keeping these things off when you are working in a normal mode. I'll come here, multi. I'll select the face. I'll select the edge. I'll select the vertex by pressing shift. If I am in vertex mode, I can select only the vertex. If I am in edge mode, I can select only the edge. In face mode, I can select only the face. But in multi mode, I can select 3 of them together. UV we will see during the unwrapping time. Object mode is nothing but our normal object mode. In a paint selection, we can see a different set of options. The first one is upper radius, lower radius. For a brush, imagine you have a brush which is thin at the bottom and thick at the top. This is for this. Now we are seeing for the component selection, but this can be used for other purpose also. Those we will see later. So here we will see something called Stylus Pressure. If you are using a vacuum tab for selecting or painting, those pressure will be applied. So this attribute map and display, we are not getting into it right now. I will just reduce the stroke, reset your setting. We'll see about the brush options. In a brush option, you can see this increase or decrease the size. For example, I'll make upper radius 10 and lower radius 0.5. I get a brush. I can increase or decrease the size by clicking B, left mouse button, drag to your left or right. I'm dragging right. You can see the size increasing. Dragging left, you can see the upper radius increasing or decreasing by pressing B and drag using left mouse button. So this is where we get a brush. So already we saw when we go to our paint selection mode, when we go to a paint selection tool, the mode automatically goes to the component mode. We can see over here F8 when we press, we can have a toggle between component and object mode. But when we go with paint selection tool, the F8 won't work because it won't go to the object mode. Now after creating this brush, I can left mouse button and select the faces, or if I want to select the vertices, if I want to select the edges. See, I'm not pressing shift, but whatever I painted, it is not getting deselected when I'm doing a new paint. The reason is, by default it is for only selecting. When I click unselect, you can see the selection is getting unselect. You can toggle between unselect and select. Whatever is selected, it is going to get unselected. Whatever is unselected is going to get selected. Right. I'll just press unselect all. So I don't want anything to happen. I'll just keep in select. Otherwise you can press select all or toggle all. We don't want anything to happen. So this is for selecting using our brush tool. So there is different hardness for the brush, shapes, and we can also import from outside last image file, or take a file from the browser. So we are not getting into these things right now. Just this is an introduction to this brush tool. So after using this brush we can use with the soft select. If I check the soft select, you can see here the color is changing. You can select the soft select from any of these tools and go to your brush, unselect all. Now you can see when I am painting, it is having soft selection on it. I'll press Ctrl Z. So if I go to stroke, in this stroke we have the similar options like under mirror. You can go to reflection, on which axis you want the reflection. Now you can see it is X over here. At the bottom left you can see whether I want in Y direction. Now it is taking this as the Y coordinate, or you want in Z direction. Y will work in 3D, up and down. For example, if I have a sphere, you can see in Y how the selection is happening for an object. It is not taking the world space, it is taking the object space. Here we can go with stamp spacing. So these things we will see later. It is not necessary right now. Stylus pressure, we need a tablet to get the stylus pressure. Then we have attribute, import maps, or we can export our maps from here, like alpha maps. So these are the methods we can select our components easily. And if you want to increase or decrease the selection you made, just select any component, press greater than or less than key like shift and period or comma. Shift, period, it will increase the selection. Shift, comma, it will decrease the selection. We have to select something, then increase and decrease. Always remember to off your soft selection, otherwise put a reset, the color will change, everything is going to change. So this is all for today's session. We saw only about manipulating the selected components. You can try some small objects, try to create some small objects with the help of the tools we learned today. We can go with something like some small shapes. What we can do with what we have, we'll go with the selection tool, soft selection. I will select these vertex. I will have a very less tolerance value, something like 1, right? I hope there is no symmetry happening. Off. I will go with scale tool. I'll get something like this. I will have a scale, right? I'll have it selected, this bottom part. I will have some more soft selection tolerance, small scale over there, right? Something like the mushroom head, something by translating and scaling, right? We can translate or scale what we want here. Right. I'll take it off. Right. So you try to create objects manually. Don't worry about these edges. We will see about these normals and these colors later. Don't worry about the color. Just try to create some basic models with the tools we learned till this video. Only by selection and manipulation of the components. In coming classes, we will see how to edit components and other options. Thank you for watching. We will see in the next class. Thank you.